The photos make Maroon Bells look simple: mountains, lake, reflection, done. But the reality is a little more complicated. These days, visiting the Maroon Bells means reservations, shuttles, paid parking, crowds, and a whole lot more planning than people expect.
The Maroon Bells are one of the most scenic destinations in the world, and for good reason. I'm lucky enough to live just down the street from them, so visiting the Bells is pretty much an everyday occurrence. Come along with me today as I take you along to the Maroon Bells and show you what a visit there is actually like.
So let's start before you even get to the lake because this is the part that trips people up. You generally can't just drive up to Maroon Lake, park, and wander around wherever you feel like it. There are parking permits, but they're incredibly hard to get. In peak season, they sell out within seconds of opening. So for most people, the realistic move is to skip the parking permit drama and book the shuttle from Aspen Highlands. That's what we did. And honestly, the shuttle itself was easy. I booked it online literally 12 hours before we left. So this doesn't mean you have to plan it months in advance, but it does cost money. The shuttle was $16 per adult and $10 for kids and seniors. Then we had to pay for parking at Aspen Highlands, which was $40 for 4 hours. And this part is important. You have to choose your parking time in advance. If you underestimate how long you'll be at the Bells and you stay too long, you can get hit with a really expensive overage fee. So, right away, this becomes less of a casual mountain outing and more of a scheduled, paid, timed adventure, which is annoying. There's no way around that. Once you're on the shuttle, though, the experience gets much easier. You're not worrying about the entrance stations, parking at the lake, traffic, or whether you're going to get turned around. You just get on the bus at Highlands, right up Maroon Creek Road, and get dropped off right near Maroon Lake. Getting back is simple too. You return to the same general shuttle area where you're dropped off, get in line, and catch a shuttle back down to Highlands. So, as long as you keep an eye on your parking window, the transportation piece is pretty easy. And to be fair, there's a reason the system exists. The Bells used to be chaos. Too many cars, too many visitors, too much pressure on a really fragile area. The reservation and shuttle system can be frustrating, but it has also helped protect the place people are coming to see. When you arrive at Maroon Lake, you immediately understand two things. First, yes, it really is that beautiful. Second, no, you are probably not going to have this view to yourself unless you come in winter, which I do quite often, and it is stunning. The lake area is where most day trippers stop. It's the classic photo spot, the easiest viewpoint, and the place where everyone naturally gathers. So if your vision of Maroon Bells is quiet reflection besides an alpine lake, this part might feel a little jarring. There are families, photographers, tour groups, hikers, and a whole lot of people doing exactly what you're doing, trying to experience one of Colorado's most iconic views. But even with the crowds, it still delivers. The Bells are famous for a reason.
We are going to give the scenic trail a shot, which is a good beginner friendly trail, especially if you are from sea level. So, for me, the Maroon Bells are one of those places that you have to see. But if you don't have the time or fitness or energy level to do a lot of the deeper in hiking, there's honestly not a ton to do. Like this little scenic loop is about it. And of course, you get to see the bells and how beautiful they are. But if you have the time and energy to hike further in, to hike to Crater Lake, to hike West Maroon Pass, it it's all so much more worth it than just a quick trip to the base.
And that's the next thing I think people should understand. If you only go to Maroon Lake, take a photo and leave, this visit's going to be really quick. That might be totally fine. Not every outing needs to be a giant sufferfest. But if you want the day to feel like more than a scenic stop, you're gonna need to walk. The Scenic Loop is the best low commitment way to actually experience the area. You don't have to commit to a big hike and you don't have to drag your kid miles into the wilderness, but you do get away from the densest crowds around Maroon Lake. And pretty quickly, it starts to quiet down. Not empty, this is still the Maroon Bells. But it feels noticeably calmer once you leave the main viewpoint. You get different angles, quieter stretches, and more of that feeling of actually being in the landscape and wildflowers instead of standing in front of it with everyone else. And if you keep hiking toward Crater Lake, it quiets down even more. The farther you move from Maroon Lake, the more the crowds thin out.
Here's a fast pro tip on the scenic loop. Since everybody gets off the shuttle together and a lot of people tend to go to the scenic loop for day trips, Most people go to the bridge and go left, doing the scenic loop clockwise. But if you go right and do it counterclockwise, I mean, you still run into people, but it means you're not hiking with them the whole time, which is kind of nice. You get the whole loop to yourself, which is pretty great.
So here's the ugly truth about visiting the Maroon Bells. It's gorgeous, but it's not peaceful near Maroon Lake. It's accessible, but it's not effortless. It's outdoors, but it is definitely not free. You have to plan ahead. You'll likely need a shuttle reservation. You'll pay for the shuttle, you'll pay for parking, you need to watch your time, and you should expect to share the experience with a lot of other people. But I still think it's worth it. Because the other truth is that this place is spectacular. And as frustrating as the permanent shuttle system can be, it has helped rein in on the chaos and preserve a place that was getting absolutely loved to death. So, yes, I wish it were easier and cheaper to visit. But I also understand why it isn't anymore. My advice: skip the stress of trying to get a parking permit unless you're actually backpacking. Book the shuttle from Aspen Highlands, budget for both the shuttle and parking, give yourself more time than you think you'll need, and just don't stop at the lake if you're able to keep walking. Do the scenic loop at minimum. Head toward Crater Lake if you want more of a real hike. And go in knowing what Maroon Bells is now. Not a hidden wilderness escape, but one of Colorado's most famous views. Managed, busy, expensive to access, and still absolutely beautiful. If you want another classic Colorado adventure, I have a full video on Hanging Lake. And if you're headed to Aspen but want hikes that aren't the Maroon Bells, I'll link that one here too.
So that's what we've got. This is what a visit to the Maroon Bells looks like today. Yes, it costs a bit of money. Yes, there's some logistics to figure out. But yes, it is truly beautiful and worth your time. We'll see you out there.